and takes the save. 3, 2, 1, and the Minto Cup is going home.
The 1997 Canadian Junior A champ.
The MX is the Minto Cup in 2016.
For the third time in the last 8 years, our Minto Cup champions.
Assistant Captain David Charney, and Ramo Shinato and Jackson Fridge.
Something super special, playing on a stage like the Minto Cup with guys you've grown up with. And
we just play unselfish lacrosse, learn from the North members of the world. So
we're aggressive, and I think we just like use that youth that we have.
It's been that hard to come from one of 13 team now to playing in a Minto Cup.
Battle tested through the postseason would be an understatement. But the Minto is a different beast.
Trying to focus on just what's ahead of us, and I look at the clock and it says 7:04. That was the address of my house when I lived in Coquitlam. So I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, I won't nothing. And then the next game, same thing, just focus into that. And I just happened to look up again. It was 7:04, and I went. I'm not spiritual, and I'm like, holy shit, something is crazy here. This is yeah. So yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I grew up dreaming about this, like watching in 16 and Langley, like seeing them celebrate. It was like, man, like I want this to be me next type thing.
Honestly, as the crowds, started to build and how loud they were, it felt more like opportunity.
That feeling of opportunity had a little extra time to simmer. Following a 2-week break at the conclusion of the BCJ ALL finals, Coquitlam's first taste of Minto Cup action would have to wait until after the first official game of the tournament between Poco and the league champions from the Ontario Junior Lacrosse League, the Orangeville Northmen.
Nice pickoff. Trey Deer with the ball. Can he scoop it up? Diving play by Richmond. Leaves Doc Stater with Ruff on him. Towards the center behind the back feed. Cowan in front. He scores! Joey Spallina showcasing the footwork and the speed as he breaks free into the middle and gets his team within 5.
They're just a young team that just wanted to ball, that just wanted to play, right?
I know everybody was just itching to get to that first game.
You're just getting one step closer to this final destination you've been waiting for all year. You're at home, you're the favorite.
I was worried. You just never know.
We couldn't go in underestimating the Raiders. I mean, Alberta's growing and they're getting a lot stronger each year.
After what must have felt like an eternity of waiting, the Adanacs eagerly returned to the floor for their first taste of Minto action and their first look at the Rocky Mountain League champs, the Raiders Lacrosse Club. Scoreless through the first half of the opening frame, that is, until Cody Malowski made his mark with his patented breakaway finish on a Hail Mary feed from the defensive zone. The young and fiery Raiders team would get things back to square one relatively quickly when Wyatt Visti fooled Jack Kask. But that tie was short-lived when number 27 Parker Kennedy scored 27 seconds later to reclaim the 1-goal advantage. And it seemed like that's where things would conclude through 20 minutes. Jackson Dillon, though, had something else in mind. And in this case, that something else was a bar-down buzzer beater. Less than a second left on the clock, and now the Adanacs could head into the intermission with a 2-goal lead. Still, though, not quite up to the standard that they've set for themselves.
Our first period wasn't very good against them, and you're starting to question maybe we should have scouted a little more.
That was kind of like, what the hell are we doing? This isn't right. It shouldn't have been that way, in our opinion.
That first period was super chaotic. I mean, we weren't playing that great, but Once we got the jitters out, we were kind of ready to roll.
Nerves, anxiousness, rust even, may have all played a factor in the tournament opening game for the A's. And a ton of credit is owed to the Raiders for the game plan that they had executed against the hosts. Because aside from the first period, they'd end up going shot for shot with Coquitlam through the remaining 2 periods. By the end of the game, though, the first period would wind up being the difference maker as the Adanacs took home a 10-8 victory. And now, their sights would be set on a foe that they had become far too familiar with by this point.
They played really good. They played a lot different than we expected, and we had to we had to battle to get that win. So
play and forget. Like, you're going out there, you're laying it all on the line, but next day's a whole nother day. Like, you're taking one day at a time. It doesn't matter what you beat somebody by or who you beat or how hard you beat them. It's you go out there, you do your job. Next day, recuperate. You're doing the exact same thing.
Play and forget. An excellent state of mind to have in general, and it takes on a whole new level of importance when that next opponent is Port Coquitlam in a rematch of the league finals. However, this time with a whole lot more at stake.
Middle, they left him in front! Denied by the post! Kask might have got a piece of it.
The offseason acquisition, Ryan Colsey, kicked things off. Speed through the defense, then precision past the goaltender, and the fans are brought to their feet. Austin Lamoureux and Silas Richmond then teamed up to calm the nerves of the Poco faithful and give their team the lead late in the first. Then finally, the fast-paced opening period came to an end after David Charney cashed in on the power play.
Clear though, so going back to Charney and Coquitlam who'll get a reset here. But boy, Brown is having himself a first period, no doubt about it. A bunch of good looks here, and he's been up to the task.
There's a bit of an error there by Brown! And Charney pays dividends!
We just kind of played how we played kind of all season long, right? We just stick to the course. It doesn't matter how much we're down, how much we're up, we're always still in the game. And in that second period, we kind of got to where we wanted to be, kind of peaking at the right time, and then we ran away with it.
If you had never seen the Adanacs play before, there's a chance you'd have a little anxiousness start to set in, especially after the Saints outscored Coquitlam 3-1 to kick off the second period, led by 3 straight Richmond goals. That even-keel mentality pays dividends time and time again. Noah Manning found his scoring touch with a second-period hat-trick, plus the pair of Jacksons, Fridge and Dillon, each found the back of the net. 40 minutes in the books, and the Adanacs are just 20 minutes away from a 2-0 start to the tournament.
Fridge scored a transition goal where he shot he usually does these stupid underhand shots, and he actually shot overhand to the top corner, and it was a rocket. And it was that sort of felt like that's when the tide changed for us there. Like, it really where there was a moment there where I know they had been preparing for us. It felt like at the beginning of the season, like that's what they were doing, is that they knew this was going to be coming. That was their plan. The moves they made was to play us there, and I thought they had a great game plan. Like, I thought Silas played really well against us, and I felt like what we were good at all year was just keep coming, and not panic, and just trust what we're doing. And we just feel like we're going to wear teams down.
Like sharks smelling blood in the water, Coquitlam took their rivals on a run for the ages. 9 straight unanswered goals in the final period, en route to a massive 17-7 victory and an increasingly favorable shot at locking in the number 1 seed following the round robin.
I had a talk in the dressing room, like, let's go pick it up. We're playing good. Our defense is good. Goaltending's playing well. We need to pick it up offensively. And the boys dug deep, and we shut the door, and we, kind of pumped them with some goals there in the third to make it a big blowout. But I think it was a closer game than that. But after that, we're like, okay, we're feeling pretty good. We also knew that Poco beat Orangeville, so we had to kind of win out to guarantee that we were going to get the bye. and that was a big thing for us. We wanted to get the bye. So for us to beat Coyle like that with the big score, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it was massive.
You know, those are two great teams who played good games, and you know, we thought we played pretty well, and we were pretty excited about that, but we knew the real challenge was ahead. Ontario always has the best team and gives us the best fight, and you know, our mindset was just one game at a time. Let's control the controllables, and we'll get it done.
Poco, we had just faced, and we'd seen so much of them that it was kind of like, we know what we got to do. And then Orangeville was just the wild card, where we thankfully had 2 days to kind of scout. They threw an absolute curveball at us like 5 minutes before game time, and I think it kind of threw us off. It wasn't what we had game planned for and what we had expected.
Going in like to the locker room right before the game, coach came in and was talking, and then he kind of tells us that they're not playing their guys, and you know, we were really super excited to see their guys, and then it kind of just like took the wind out of our sails in the game, and we went out a little bit flat and then just tried to play catch up, but we couldn't. But that's not taking anything away from them. They're a good team, but we just didn't have the energy we did going in.
With both teams being the champions of their respective leagues, plus the talent littered throughout their rosters, there's no question as to why people were looking at this game as a potential preview of the Minto final. But some last-minute roster tweaks by the Northmen may have taken some of the wind out of the Adanac sails. Joey Spallina, who had recently been named the #1 junior lacrosse player in all of Canada by the Lax Mag, was a healthy scratch. Trey Deer, who came in at #4 on that same list, was a healthy scratch. And Connor O'Toole, the usual starting netminder for the Northmen, who had backstopped them through the Ontario playoffs, would play the role of backup. The start was an uncharacteristic one for the Adanacs, and it played perfectly into Orangeville's hand. While they were able to find the back of the net a couple of times, special teams became a major factor. Coquitlam would wind up taking 8 minutes in penalties in the first period and give up a pair of power play goals. After 20 minutes, the Northmen held a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, so that first game was a little strange. So we were all kind of ready to go out on the floor. And we're in the locker room, like waiting in the tunnel, kind of ready to run out of the floor. And coach said that, you know, they like, he just got the roster and they're sitting, you know, what it was 6 or 7 of their top guys, and everybody was kind of super bummed out about it. I mean, we were super excited to kind of see what they're all about. I mean, that rivalry goes back so many years, and for them kind of to, I don't know, sit some of their best guys for us, it was kind of a trap game because we were all so amped up to get out there and play. And then once we heard that, you know, those guys weren't playing, we were all kind of like, oh man, like, and then we were kind of discouraged out there as the results showed it.
More of the same as the clock rolled through the second period. Sort of a 1 step forward, 3 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back type of scenario. Again, the Adanacs would chip away before Orangeville would answer back quickly and frustration would seep in.
As much as we wanted to win the game, we just knew what the goals for and against formula was. So we were trying to keep our guys healthy, keep them out of trouble, and we knew we had a 7-goal window. So we weren't playing to lose, we were playing to win, but if things are going sideways, we could pull guys back and not put them in harm's way and just make sure we weren't going to lose by a certain number.
The third period provided flashes of hope when Cody Malowski and Parker Kennedy notched back-to-back markers, cutting the deficit to just 2. And then, in what felt like just the blink of an eye, the Northmen would find a pair. Although a few more goals would still come from either side, the end result of an Orangeville victory was more or less solidified. However, the A's would still leave the building with a fair amount of positivity. Through 3 round-robin games, they outscored their opponents 36-27, which would mean a few things. A, they'd finish in first place and automatically advance to the final. B, they'd earned an extra day off compared to the remaining teams. And C, those remaining teams, being Port Coquitlam and Orangeville, would have to play in a single elimination semifinal to determine who would join Coquitlam in the final.
I felt like we played into their game a lot, and that we were emotionally out of control, and we tried to be something that we weren't, and it just didn't work. Like, I appreciate again, it worked out great. Like, it really worked out well, I thought, because for one, it probably knocked us down a peg or two where we were realized, like, we can't play that. We have to play our disciplined lacrosse game, and let's see how things go when we do that. But it also, I really think, man, they didn't play all those guys that you listed, and they still beat us. So how could they not be thinking, you know, I think things look good if we get to play them in the finals. So
yeah, right away, we knew we didn't play our best. We knew it was like just a weird scenario where they didn't seem to think, they almost assumed that they were playing for the second and third place playing game regardless of what happened in that game, because they would need to beat us by a lot of goals to qualify first. So it was just a total weird scenario. So the fact that it was over, we're like, okay, that wasn't their best lineup. That wasn't our best lineup. We got through, we got the bye. Let's rest up. Let's watch them the next night and be ready to kick some butt.
I think the big thing is we were hoping for an extra day off, and, you know, having an additional day off and additional day to recover and rest was, I think, really important for our group. So for us going into it, it was like, we've put ourselves in a good position winning the first 2 games, but we could win the third game as well. Or if the goal differential works out the way that it did for us, if we can get that additional break and it gives us an extra 2 days to study film, work on our bodies and all that, I think that was going to make a huge difference for us. And I think that was our biggest motivation. Like, you try to put all the noise aside, and at the end of the day, it's just another lacrosse game. Like, we've all done this for so long, and it was a new opportunity and a new team to play.
The Northmen likely weren't all that upset about missing out on the #1 seed and having to play in the semifinals, because it meant that this rematch versus the Saints would be a chance at redemption against the only team that had beaten them to this point. And with their lives being on the line, their now rested stars would return to the lineup. While the Adnaks would watch from afar, awaiting their next obstacle, these two juggernauts battled it out in an all-out slugfest. Every inch of the floor was highly contested, and through 40 minutes, the score remained deadlocked, tied at 8-8 with one final period on the horizon.
There was a moment there where that could have gone either way too. What a great game that was, and just exciting. I think you're sitting there watching, just knowing you're going to be playing the winner of whoever wins this game. So
that is when the 2 biggest storylines really cemented themselves. Already with 3 goals in the game, Trey Deer, refusing to let his team roll over, scored 4 more in the third, including the eventual game winner after Poco had taken an early lead. The Northmen found their revenge. And now they'd need to stifle a team looking for theirs, because in just 2 short days, they'd take on the Adnaks again in Game 1 of the best of 3 Minto Cup finals.
It was big. We had some guys banged up. Some of our offensive guys took a beating in that Orangeville game, and if we would have played Poco, it would have been a rough game. We played them all year, and you know, you play the same team so many times, it can really get nasty and chippy. So we didn't want to play them, and they're strong. So we needed to make sure we got through that. When we got through it, we got the day off. It felt like a breath of fresh air. Just kind of got to relax and knew that those guys were battling for 60 more minutes, beating the crap out of each other. We had another leg up on them. So that day off was huge for us.
It's like last year in the Minto, we didn't get the bye. We had to play the semifinal game, and I was 10 times more beat up than I was this year. So to get that extra day of recovery and be able to get into our nice recovery room we had was massive.
Like, they could have used that day, those 2 days really, because everyone got a day off the following day. So just from the series that they just went through, I know guys were banged up from that, and then they had to play these really intense games. So I think we would have been okay, but I think the real benefit of that was that they had to play again in a really tough game. They, watching their Mimico series, watching not so much how they played against us, but how they played against Alberta and the 2 games against Poco, you could sort of see where their strengths were, and we had an idea of, like, with both teams, I think, of what we wanted to do.
Those days just felt so long. I remember waking up at 8 or 9 and just like counting down the hours. I tried to like distract myself. We'd normally go to the arena in the morning, watch a little film, a little tweak ups, whatever, go back home, try and take a nap, but I mean, it was so hard to nap just with the jitters and everything, and then you're just counting down the hours, building up to the game, but the anticipation was real. There's definitely some nerves. But once you get out and warm up on the floor, they all kind of go away.
I couldn't sleep that night. Like I had tried taking melatonin to fall asleep, and I was trying to like force myself to sleep. And even when I did, like I was up at like 6 o'clock, just kind of like I was just wired. I was just like super anxious, super nervous. And that anxiety and those nerves like grew throughout the day until like I got to the rink. And once I got to the rink, it was just like calm. At the end of the day, it's just another game. We've gone through it 25, 30 times already this year. It's just another lacrosse game. Just like once we got there and in that setting, I was able to relax, but the lead up was terrible. Like, I couldn't function.
I'm a type of guy that like doesn't really like get nervous about big games. I just like kind of relax and do the same thing I do every day. I just get up, eat my breakfast, go shoot the ball a bit, visualize what I'm going to do, and then get to the arena, shoot some more, have some fun with Jack Cass, throw the ball around before. I mean, nothing really changes for me.
I've been to games where you're in a clinching series and that's what you're thinking about is the clinch, and then you go home and you got to do it all over again the next day. So none of that was creeping in my head as a coach, and I don't know if it was creeping in anybody else's head. Patty had us pretty dialed up as a coaching staff, and he had the players dialed up that, once again, what's ahead of us, one game. So you got the one period, what are you going to do in that period? So that's kind of what it was. So for me personally, I was just, you were nervous as hell, but you're trying to not over, think everything. You're just like, it's a game, let's go.
Backed by the support of their fans and the community, the time had finally arrived. Everything the team had worked for over the past several months came down to this final series, one of the best rivalries in all of lacrosse. It took some time before either group could break through. Nathan Chalmers would get his team off and running.
And I don't know if this is one of his patent ones, but there was a couple in that series where he went overhand. And I think that might have been one of the goals where he went overhand, but I just remember thinking, okay, we got one. Okay, let's go.
Shortly after, the Northmen would find their footing, striking with back-to-back tallies of their own. Noah Manning and Jackson Dillon mirrored that effort with a couple in a row for Coquitlam, and the Adanacs entered the first intermission of Game 1, leading 4-3.
Part of Dylan's success was because of Chalmers and the picks that he was setting. I think it was, again, that their defense was really good and played like a hard game, but they still didn't adjust. So I think our pick angles changed a bit and how we enter. I know Gilly and I talked a lot about how we enter the floor. I thought there was times in the game where we entered, you sort of come down the middle and you just sort of go to the outside, and then you sort of set up from there. And I find that that's really easy to play defense against. But when we actually had guys crashing to the wrong side of the floor and setting cross picks and just creating some chaos, that's when I felt like we got to the middle more. And
yeah, well, we had to create swings, create some clear out plays, drives from the shooter. We had Colsey and Malowski and Manning, like driving it down and driving it and actually getting inside. The pick and roll games were hard to get to. Like, it was just hard. Everybody wanted to do so much and be perfect, and sometimes that's the worst thing you can do, right? So for us, our game plan was waiting for them to make an adjustment, because we had adjustments ready for it. And for whatever reason, the plays that we were running seemed to build momentum, so we just kept on running them.
The chess match continued into the second. After a flurry of early goals, the veteran Ryan Favreau potted home 2 straight with the miraculous effort. Falling forward with the defender draped all over him, nothing was getting in his way. On the defensive end, Jack Kask flexed his goaltending muscles with a handful of 5 alarm saves, forcing the combination of Connor O'Toole and Lyndon Hill to do the same for their team. Eventually, the second period would end exactly the same as the first. A power play goal from Dylan with less than 2 to play.
Yeah, I think our defense played really well. We weren't too sure, not having seen their players, like how we're going to play and how we're going to play them, and how they're going to react to us. And I think we forced them down the alleys and made them take worse shots than they would have liked in certain spots, and kind of shut them down defensively. And then our offense definitely got rolling that game, just finding the back of the net in key moments.
Like, I think if you draw too much attention to what's at stake or where you're at, in that, like, who wouldn't be happy with an 8-6 lead, game 1 of the Minto Cup? Like, to go in there and say, hey, we're in a great spot right now, like, I think is the worst thing that you can say. Or you come in and say, we need to lock it down, is the worst thing that you can say too. Like, you come in and you say, we just need to keep doing what we're doing. Like, what are our goals? What are our focus? Nothing changes, especially because of the score. Like, so nothing changes. And I think it goes back to stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the season, where it feels like the closer you get to the goal, your goal, like we all talked about our goal at the beginning of the season, where we want to get to. The closer you get to that, the more tendency you have to, like, hold on a little tighter, and that's where you're going to make mistakes, and that's where you're going to fuck up. So we don't talk about the goal. Like, we actually talk about what are we going to do. And if anything, I think it's 8-6. Now let's go put our foot on their throats. Like, that's what we're going to do. That's what it's about. It's not about we need to win this game. It's actually about, like, let's go show them who we are.
The message was show them who we are. And the offense understood the assignment. Coquitlam stormed out and went on a 6-1 run immediately upon entering the final frame. And with tempers starting to rise at the tail end, everyone knew that their toughest game was still yet to come.
Game 1 is now in the books. What do you really peg as the turning points tonight, as it were, that helped get you guys to pull out the win?
Yeah, I think our offense just stuck to the system, buzzing around all game, grinded them down, and they started to fall after that.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. Congratulations. Good luck tomorrow night in Game 2.
Literal blood, sweat, and tears are being spilled with a chance at a national championship. It's time to be resilient.
Yeah, that's just one. It's fucking one. I mean, we can feel really good about how we play, but our work's not done yet. We know they're not done. The one thing I can say, and you guys must feel that they're on the floor, they're fucking tired. Hey, you guys feel it? They're fucking tired, man. We just gotta fucking grind it away. They're gonna look for fucking reasons to fucking lose now. crying about the fucking refs, they're crying about everything, because they know 5-on-5, man, straight up, they can't fucking compete with us. That's a really good fucking game.
Go win a fucking Minto Cup, fellas! Let's go!
Hey, I gotta wait on 3, 1, 2, 3.
It's either 10, 15, or...
Having the Minto Cup on the line, knowing you can win it that night, man, there's no words. Like, you're going to give everything. You're going to die on the floor tonight. I remember guys saying that in the locker room, like, doesn't matter what it takes, we're going to get it done. We're going to die on the floor tonight.
I remember Parker Kennedy, he was staying at my house for the throughout the whole span of Minto, and I remember we woke up and we watched 300, the movie 300, and it got me so fired up. And the whole day we were just quoting 300, and I don't know, I felt like it was almost like it tied into the game somehow, and we were just...
Yeah, I think it's simply put, you have one game to win a Minto Cup.
First 5 minutes, eh? Each shift is big, right? Work that first shift over, next shift you just roll them again.
Fucking ready? Fucking go!
Childhood dreams are on the line with this game. 60 minutes until they could come true. The intensity picked up right where it left off 24 hours prior. This time, Orangeville would open the scoring, leading to a response from the Adanacs. After an emotional opening 20, Game 2 was tied 2-2. Then, the second period opened with a bang.
I think confidence kind of stayed at an high. Like, we're not trying to, like I said, like, we're not trying to get too fired up, and like we're trying to stay as even keel as possible. But Cody is like such an electrifying player to watch, where it's kind of got to get fired up a little bit, and I think it motivates the offense a lot as well. And you know, like seeing him go out there and do his thing, and it fires the crowd up. So yeah, he's just an electric player to watch, and it definitely gets the group, I wouldn't say more fired up, but it almost puts into perspective how much closer, you know, the end goal is getting. So
the fact that Kasker was able to get that ball in the air before Cody's even on the floor, for starters. It's so hard to catch or get that pass on time. It's hard to catch it. Well, it's 10 feet or 5 feet from you. And when he does that, what I remember is kind of laughing. Well, first I gave a fist pump, but laughing at his celebration, because it was so contagious when he does that. The crowd goes nuts, the players go nuts, and it actually gets him going even more. So I just remember thinking, holy crap, this is like one of those plays that you don't see very often. And it happened on the biggest stage.
Coquitlam was finding the net with success, but the Northmen would always push back quickly. After Chalmers gave his team the lead for the third time that period, another veteran, David Charney, added some insurance.
When we went into the second, was that when Ted Charney just scored before that, and O'Toole slashed him? Was that right before that? Yeah, you could actually feel it. You could actually feel that they were starting to crack. Like one of the things I talked about in the pregame, and I talked about previously at the beginning of the Minto, was I don't believe that it's luck. Like where we're not like rolling dice and hoping things turn our way. We're not putting a ball on a roulette wheel and hoping it lands on the right slot. You know what I mean? I actually feel like this is in our control. And I think going into the third period, I talked about, like, we're going to go into the casino, we're going to flip the fucking table, and we're going to take what's ours. And that's what we went out with.
Mirroring that of the second period, Malowski would strike first with a shot through some legs. Noah Manning would add one as well on the very next shift.
You look at both games and we just got better and better. Like, third period seemed to be really good for us, right? And I think that is because we just play like this. And we don't, you can have 10 shots and they don't go in, but to have that belief, Gilly does such a good job with that. Like, you can sort of see his mindset as a player. Like, when he was shooting on goalies, he had a plan when he was a player, and you can see that as a coach. And he just had clip after clip after clip of the goalies. And he would say, look at his leg, look at his leg. Like, and he would just go over that and over that and over that.
I had like 2 or 3 shots I missed right before, and I knew that O'Toole, he bends his right knee down, and so he dips his right shoulder down. So I was trying to catch him on that.
It doesn't look like there's anything short side, but he knows that as you wind up, the goalie's going to lean off his post a bit. So a lot of the success our shooters had was because of Chris. He did a great job with that.
The Palace could taste it. A 3-goal lead and less than 30 seconds until glory. Jack Kask would make his 50th save of the game and turn dreams into reality.
I don't remember much. I've seen some videos. My wife was filming the last minute on the bench, and I was walking back and forth like an idiot, not even talking to anybody, just looking at my clipboard, walking around. So I think I just blacked out. But I remember hugging Patty and Ethan and all the bench staff, and the crowd was going crazy. The boys were jumping on each other. I was happy for the players. I was really happy for the players. Like, I know how hard it is to win, because I didn't win one as a player. So for them to do it, I was just so happy for them.
I was really happy. I was really happy for Gilly and Tice, just to do that together. Like, the first thing I do, I think, is sort of find them and give them a hug. And just because we put in a lot of work over the season and really care a lot about what happens there. So, and then Sakib, I think, was the 4th guy that came up and hugged, because he like really does so much behind the scenes work for our guys. He did so much in the Minto there, just making sure guys were healthy and rested and electrolytes, whatever, so. But it's probably after that little bit of, not little bit, that lot of bit of like just so happy that it's like relief. It's almost relief, where it's like if you truly believe going into the beginning of the season that that's what we're going to win, then you're just doing what you're supposed to do anyways, right? So, like, I actually think if you truly get into that mindset, that it's maybe not as earth-shattering, because you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Man, that might have been one of the best, well, it was one of the best moments of my life. You know, growing up playing box entire life, like the Minto Cup is what they say is the hardest cup to win, and to be able to know that we just did it, it was, I mean, I can't describe. It was one of the happiest moments I've ever felt in my life. Being able to jump off that bench, like throw your bucket up in the air, go dog pile. Man, I can't even describe. I remember jumping on there, getting up. I stand up, turn around, and Mouse is right there. Give him a big hug, man. And then, oh my gosh, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I definitely remember everyone coming down and celebrating, and the whole team was just absolutely so excited and smiles on their face, and everyone's giving each other hugs, and definitely a moment. It's pretty special to me.
The first like 30 seconds are just a blur, and then you kind of like wake back up in a dog pile and like realize that you just, you know, won something that you've been dreaming of winning since you were a little kid. And to have my dad in the crowd too is pretty special, because like he's been my mentor, and you know, we used to go to the box when I was a kid and play Minto Cup, we would call it, and we would shoot on the net and just be like, okay, that's game one, we lost, we missed the net this many times, we got to hit the net this many times. So it was very special to do.
It was probably one of the best moments of my life. Like, I don't know if that's bad or that's crazy, but I don't know, like just looking over, like it's almost like you're getting flashbacks of, it was weird. Like I look over and the buzzer goes and the first person I see is Friggy. I'm like, I gotta give this guy a hug. So I kind of just like throw my shit and I'm like, let's go, Friggy. And then, I don't know, like I'm kind of like running back to the bench and like, you know, obviously back to the goalie, and I don't know, like we went through so many battles all year and like controversy, like, you know, trying to beat Burnaby, and it's almost like, you know how they say right before you die, you see your whole life flash before your eyes? It was almost like that, but this year, it was just like that. And I kind of saw everything, and it was preseason, like losing to Burnaby and Ridge, and then I'm like, fuck, like looking at Favs, and I'm like, man, I've known this kid since I was like 4, right? So it was, you know, it was one of the best moments of my life, and I wouldn't have wanted to spend it with any other people ever. So
I don't know if it's fully hit me. I mean, it's pretty real, but like, I don't know if it'll ever, like, kind of looking back on it in 10 years or so, it's like, we did that. Like, we cemented ourselves into the history books, and it's like, we've joined the ranks of legends of the game, and we're now the team that, you know, kids are looking up to. Like, we looked up to 16 and 18 in 2010. It's like, we created this legacy for ourselves, and it's going to be exciting to see where that legacy leads.
It was a fucking group, and how we grew as individuals. And I don't know, man, we fucking won the Minto Cup. Yeah!